New York, 2005. An Orthodox Jewish man by the name of Levi Aaron is coming off a divorce. He's residing in the Kensington section of Brooklyn, which is sandwiched between the neighborhoods of Borough Park and Flatbush. Areas of Brooklyn historically prominent in Hasidic and Orthodox Jewish populations. Levi is employed at Empire State Supply, a hardware store located on McDonald Avenue in Kensington. He had been employed there for 11 years and was preparing to enter into his 30s with no wife, no children, and no residence of his own. He was living on the top floor apartment of his family's 3-story home in Kensington. This certainly wasn't the blueprint for a man of his age coming up in an Orthodox Jewish environment. It would be during this time that he'd lose his mother to cancer, and his family life was rapidly deteriorating. He didn't get along good with his father, and he rarely attended family meals. He would spend many nights driving around the city and performing at karaoke bars. To those that knew him in the community, he was a quiet, odd guy who came from a respectable family. In his heart, he saw himself as an aspiring entertainer who had been rebellious for much of his life and at times questioned his existence within the Orthodox community. Despite all of his shortcomings and hidden rebel spirit, he would still attend local synagogue and maintain his search for a Jewish woman in order to be married once more and start a family of his own. In that same year of 2005, he joined a dating website for Jewish singles. It was there that he met Leiby Kletzky, a divorced mother residing in Tennessee. They became close, and eventually Kletzky made the trip to New York City to meet Aaron in person. They would fall in love and decided to marry in March of 2006. Aaron would soon find his way out of Brooklyn and would move to Kletzky's hometown of Memphis, Tennessee, ultimately settling with Leiby and her children in the area of Germantown, which is a suburb of Memphis. Levi would get a job as a meat cutter at a local Kroger supermarket and had also been employed as a security guard. Aaron started worshiping at a Memphis synagogue where once again he would pick up the reputation of being a quiet guy. Rabbi Joel Finkelstein of the Memphis-based Anshe Spard Beth Elameth Synagogue would state, "He was kind of a loner. We had contact with him, but it was hard to get to know him." Early on in the marriage, things seemed well between Levi and Leiby. Levi Aaron had no problem obtaining employment in Tennessee, and he got along well with Leiby's children. However, it would soon come to Leiby's attention that Levi had been diagnosed with a personality disorder and was taking medication for it. He would often complain to Deborah about a bicycle accident he had as a child, in which he suffered a bad head injury. This seemed to be an event that haunted Levi, and one that he used to rationalize some of his odd behavior. In late 2006, less than a year after wedding, Leiby went to police to seek a restraining order against Levi. She had complained that he became erratic and violent at times, and to her, it was a result of him not taking his medication regularly. It was reported that he even went as far as threatening Leiby's reputation in the community and telling her that he would try to have her kids taken away. Leiby would file for divorce, and by March of 2007, Levi and Leiby's divorce was finalized. The two barely made it a year, and Levi was headed back to Brooklyn to pick up the pieces of his life, with another failed marriage on his resume. Levi would return back to his family's 3-story home in Kensington, and he would regain employment at Empire State Supply. Soon, his father would remarry, and his stepmother would take up residence within the home. The home would also be occupied by 2 of his brothers and an uncle. It would also be during this time that Levi's sister Sarah Aaron would pass away. In 2009, while being treated for schizophrenia at a mental hospital, she would commit suicide, certainly adding to Leiby's tumultuous family life. Levi's days droned on, like many years before, unfulfilled, empty. He had entered into his 30s and was the model for failure within the Orthodox community, and he certainly knew it. But Leiby wouldn't be a nobody for long. Soon, Leiby would become synonymous with all that is evil, his name pervading the streets of Brooklyn and into the annals of New York City criminal history. Borough Park, Brooklyn, Monday, July 11th, 2011. It's 91 degrees and humid in New York City. The mugginess of a New York City summer can be oppressive at times. It's the type of weather that brings out the worst in people. At least that's the evidence I've gathered from all my years here. But it's the start of a new week, so the ants march on. It's 5:30 p.m., and Levi Aaron arrives to pay a bill at his dentist office on 18th Avenue. Before walking in, he's approached by an 8-year-old Hasidic Jewish boy by the name of Levi Kletzky, a Borough Park native who was walking home from his summer camp program. This would be the first time Leiby's parents would permit him to take the walk by himself. They previously rehearsed the route and entrusted their son to make the trip. He would get out of camp and walk to the Judaica bookstore to meet his parents. Along the way, he makes a wrong turn. According to Levi Aaron, this is when the young boy approaches him and asks him where the Judaica bookstore was. Levi goes in to pay a bill, and upon exiting, he's once again approached by the boy. This time, Leiby Kletzky asks Levi Aaron to give him a ride. Levi obliges, and they both get into his car. This is when Levi states that Leiby Kletzky then changed his mind, and he didn't want to go to the bookstore, and he was unsure exactly where he wanted to go at all. Meanwhile, Levi Aaron had a wedding in Muncie, New York to attend. Muncie is an area of Rockland County, New York, which has a large Orthodox Jewish presence. Levi decides that he's going to have the boy accompany him to the wedding. They drive 50 miles to the wedding, which was said to have close to 500 guests appearing. Levi leaves the child in the car, with the windows rolled down, and he makes his way into the wedding reception. Back in Borough Park, it's getting later in the day, and Levi's parents are panicked. Their child is missing. Rather than call the police, their first call is to the Shomrim Patrol, also known as the Watchers. The Shomrim Patrol is a Jewish neighborhood watch group composed of volunteer security forces who keep a close watch on the happenings in the neighborhood. They operate independently from any official police forces in New York City, but do receive some public financing. Opinion of this group varies. Some view them as safe protectors of their own people, who are just trying to keep the peace while building strong community ties. Others view them as vigilante bullies, who want to operate outside the law when possible, while preserving the secrecy of the insular Orthodox Hasidic community. Soon, the neighborhood of Borough Park would be flooded with Shomrim Patrol and community volunteers alike, including a man by the name of Yaakov German, commonly referred to as Yankee. Yankee German is a Borough Park resident and property manager. He's a father of 12 children and maintains a flawless reputation within the Hasidic community. With his help, the community would work tirelessly to get to the bottom of this mystery. It's 11:30 p.m., and Levi Aaron returns back home in the neighboring community of Kensington. Levi decides that he's going to bring Leiby Kletzky home the next day. He puts the TV on for the boy and lets him sleep in what he refers to as the front room. Levi retreats to the bedroom as the Borough Park residents call off the nightly search. Tuesday morning, July 12th. Levi awakes to find Leiby still sleeping. He wakes the child and tells him that he will take him home when he returns. Levi exits the home. Meanwhile, the search is beginning once more, with members from neighboring communities flooding into Borough Park. Property developer and beloved family man Yankee German, who joined last night's search, soon finds out that the child is a student of his son's at the local yeshiva school where Leiby departed the day before. It's always personal when someone goes missing in a tight-knit community, but it was starting to hit a little too close to home for Yankee. It was time to knock on some doors. Yankee German visits several homes and businesses in the area, with the hopes of finding some surveillance footage. Some people refuse, and some store cameras are not functioning at all. But things start looking up when Yankee obtains surveillance footage from the Children's Play store on 44th Street and 13th Avenue. It was there that he saw different groups of children, but no sign of Leiby. It became clear to him that Leiby missed his turn onto 13th Avenue, which he should have made in order to meet his parents. It was then that Yankee went to Variety Corner Store on 14th Avenue. This would be the first hit. It was there that he saw Leiby walking by the store, making his way down 14th Avenue. Yankee reaches out to Leiby's father and tells him of his findings. He thanks Yankee and tells him to please keep him updated. He then obtains security footage from the Shamrim locksmith on 15th Avenue, where he's able to positively confirm the image of Leiby's face. Yankee races to 16th Avenue and 44th Street, where he obtains footage from the Yeshiva Beth Hillel of Krasna school, where once again he spots Leiby. Finally, he gets a tip that Tri-State Fleet, a car leasing company on 18th Avenue, is well equipped with state-of-the-art cameras. I could only imagine what Yankee must have been feeling during the search. The nervousness, anticipation, and the feeling of having a missing child's parents relying on you must have weighed heavy on his shoulders. But there was no stopping Yankee. He wasn't going to let his community down. It's getting late in the afternoon, and Levi Aaron is making his way home. This wouldn't be an ordinary ride home. Would he find the child still waiting for him? Had the child escaped? These thoughts must have been racing through his head, when all of a sudden, Leiby's face was looking right at him. Missing child posters were everywhere. The boy's face had been plastered all over the neighborhood. It would be clear to anyone that something big was going on. A child had mysteriously vanished in a tight-knit Hasidic neighborhood, and the residents' tireless efforts could not go unnoticed. He panics and races home, knowing that what he just did was going to follow him for the rest of his life. The trauma and the failures of existence, all culminating in this very moment. According to Levi Aaron, he arrives home to find Leiby still sitting there. He's still intensely panicked from what he just witnessed on the streets. He can't get the picture of the flyers out of his head. It was then that Levi gave Leiby Kletzky a tuna sandwich. It was during the time when Leiby was eating that Levi Aaron decided that he couldn't possibly bring the child home now. He goes into the other room to retrieve a towel. He approaches the boy and starts smothering him with the towel. The child would fight back, and a struggle would ensue. Eventually, the boy stopped breathing. Levi had taken the life of Leiby Kletzky, an innocent 8-year-old child who made a wrong turn and ended up in the hands of a man encompassed by evil. In describing what happens next, I will quote directly from the confession of Levi Aaron. Quote, "I panicked because I didn't know what to do with the body. After about 15 to 20 minutes, I carried the body to the front room to start by placing him on the red mattress, where I cut one leg at the hip. Then carried the two parts to the back room, placing the two parts between the freezer and the refrigerator, then placing plastics covering the floor and table. I was having trouble fitting the leg in the bag, so I had to cut at the bottom, then separating the other leg in same places. I placed the parts in the freezer, then showered, went to clean up a little, then took a second shower. I panicked and looked for something to transport the parts, then putting the parts in a suitcase, then carrying the suitcase to the car, then left placing suitcase and back seat on the floor behind the passenger side, then pulled out, drove around approximately 20 minutes before placing it in a dumpster on 20th Street, just before 4th Avenue, then went home to clean and organize. At this time, Yankee German had made his way to TriStar Fleet. He spoke to the owner, Yehuda Bernstein, and they started to comb over the surveillance footage, where they would find their best lead yet. Yakov German picks up the phone and reaches out to Rabbi Jack Mayer, an NYPD clergy liaison. "We found the kid. We saw somebody going with him back and forth. We watched in slow motion. We saw the perp go across the avenue, going into a white house, up 3 steps, going in for 3 minutes, and coming back out. We went by and saw it was a dentist office." Rabbi Jack Meyer immediately reached out to NYPD forces, and they made their way to TriStar Fleet to view the footage. They see that the child got into a car. The car was identified as a 1990 gold Honda Accord. However, they could not obtain a license plate from the footage, but the dentist would be a promising lead. It's late in the night, and Dr. Sorcher's dentist office on 18th Avenue is not open for business. Police make their way to New Jersey in order to speak to one of the practitioners from the office. They find out that the man in the footage was there to pay a bill. After midnight, they arrive back at the dentist office and obtain Levi's information, which included his address and credit card used for the transaction. However, they still needed more. That's when volunteers spotted the car outside Levy's house on East 2nd Street. They contact the Sham Rim and provide them with a license plate number for a car that matches the surveillance footage. According to then Police Commissioner Ray Kelly, it would be this lead from the Sham Rim Patrol that would finally put the pieces together and convince officers to pay a visit to Levi's home in Kensington. 2 a.m., July 13th, 2011. Officers arrive at the Aaron family home, located at 466 East 2nd Street in Kensington, Brooklyn. When they enter the upstairs apartment, they find Levi Aaron shirtless, and they question him about Leiby Kletzky's whereabouts. Aaron nods to the kitchen. In the kitchen, they find bloody butcher knives and parts of the boy's body in Aaron's fridge. Levi is taken into custody. They then make their way to the neighborhood of Greenwood Heights, where they find the rest of Leiby's body in a dumpster on 20th Street. The community is in utter shock. How could a horrific crime like this occur in their neighborhood? What would possess a man to go to such lengths? The news hits the rest of the city, and soon the story is nationwide. A massive funeral was held for Leiby, with supporters from numerous Hasidic communities flooding into Borough Park to pay their respects. Leiby's parents did not attend the service. The pain would prove too much to bear. It was also said that they were not informed of the dismemberment of the small child and the rest of the details of the crime. Levi Aaron would be taken to Brooklyn's 67th Precinct, where detectives would spend hours interviewing him. It would be here that Levi would admit to his crimes in a written statement, going over the initial meeting with the child and the events that led up to the murder. He also claimed that he started hearing voices, telling him to commit suicide. After a physical inspection of Levi, detectives noticed scratch marks on his arms, which solidify Levi's claims of the child struggling to fight back while being suffocated. Levi would speak to detectives about his family life and his Orthodox Jewish upbringing. He would also tell detectives about his time in Tennessee and his failed marriages. He spoke of wanting to be an entertainer and that he dreamt of making it on American Idol. He said that he enjoyed karaoke, and while in Tennessee, he would perform at a place called Memphis Sports Pub, which held singing contests. Detectives then questioned if Levi had any knowledge of any physical or sexual crimes against children prior to this incident. Levi proceeds to tell a bizarre story about an incident that occurred on the F train when he was 18 years old. He stated that a Jewish man in his 20s or 30s approached him and began rubbing up and feeling on him until Levi decided to move to the opposite side of the train. Levi then stated, "But I never did that to a child because I don't swing that way." The following day, Levi was transported to the Brooklyn Criminal Courthouse, where he was charged with the murder of Leiby Kletzky. He would then be held at the Bellevue Hospital Psych Ward, where he would undergo psychiatric evaluation. Levi's defense attorney, Gerard Marin, seemed to be preparing an insanity defense when he described Aaron as having severe diminished capacity. On Thursday, August 4th of 2011, Levi Aaron appears in Brooklyn court and pleads not guilty to first-degree murder charges. By that time, his psychiatric evaluations has shown that he would be fit to stand trial and that he was well aware of the charges and why he was incarcerated. By then, Aaron's confession letter had become public, and more details of the crime started to come out. Autopsy reports would show that Aaron had fed Leiby a mixture of prescription and over-the-counter medication before going on to suffocate the child. Perhaps Levi was hoping that Leiby Kletzky would have suffered a lethal poisoning, but with his panicked state and the neighborhood commotion, he advanced things further. Soon, Aaron would take on a new defense attorney by the name of Jennifer McMahon. She would team up with defense attorney Pierre Bazile. His previous attorney, Gerard Marin, cut ties with the case because he couldn't see himself defending a man who committed such an atrocious act against a child. Jennifer McMahon had also gained previous experience in a trial where she represented a defendant who was found not guilty by reason of insanity. Longtime Brooklyn State Assemblyman and Orthodox Jewish man himself, Dov Heikind, would attend the arraignment. He had promised Leiby's family they would be there for them. He stated to the press, "I want to see his face. I want to see what a murderer like this looks like." A week after the arraignment, it would come out that Levi Aaron would be diagnosed with adjustment disorder and personality disorder with schizoid features, furthering the public notion that Levi Aaron's lawyers would go with an insanity defense. According to MayoClinic.org, adjustment disorders are stress-related conditions. You experience more stress than would normally be expected in response to a stressful or unexpected event, and the stress causes significant problems in your relationships, at work, or at school. Work problems, going away to school, an illness, death of a close family member, or any number of life changes can cause stress. Most of the time, people adjust to such changes within a few months. But if you have an adjustment disorder, you continue to have emotional or behavioral reactions that can contribute to feeling anxious or depressed. Mayo Clinic also describes a schizotypal personality disorder as: people with schizotypal personality disorders are often described as odd or eccentric, and usually have few, if any, close relationships. They generally don't understand how relationships form or the impact of their behavior on others. They may also misinterpret others' motivations and behaviors and develop significant distrust of others. These problems may lead to severe anxiety and a tendency to avoid social situations. As a person with schizotypal personality disorder tends to hold peculiar beliefs and may have difficulty with responding appropriately to social cues. Schizotypal personality disorder typically is diagnosed in early adulthood and is likely to endure across the lifespan. Through treatment, such as medications and therapy, can improve symptoms. In October 24, 2011, famed New York City defense attorney Howard Greenberg joins Leiby's defense team on pro bono basis, meaning he would render his services free. The eccentric lawyer has defended thousands of suspects throughout his career and has accumulated what would be considered an unusual amount of acquittals and dismissals. In 2016, Vice News did a story on Howard Greenberg, where they referred to him as the real-life Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul character Saul Goodman, who was portrayed by Bob Odenkirk. With his willingness to take on any challenge, Levi's defense team was hopeful that an insanity defense would work. In speaking to the press, Howard Greenberg stated, "I'm in because I believe in equal justice under the law, and that applies to those you love and those you hate." Greenberg also made clear that he would pursue an insanity case, stating, "You can get this guy to admit he shot Kennedy if you spend a little time with him. This is a very simple case. He's either evil or he's crazy. He's obviously crazy." Wednesday, December 21st, 2011. Aaron's defense team appears back in Brooklyn court. Howard Greenberg would bring up Aaron's childhood head injury, which he had just been informed about from Aaron. He would also bring up his recent mental health diagnosis. He would also go on to make a claim that would upset the Orthodox Jewish community and cause a stir around the case. According to Greenberg, Aaron's choices, as well as his mental capacity, could be a result of inbreeding within the Orthodox community. Greenberg would state, "Look, everybody knows when blood relations have offspring, there can be genetic defects. It's something that needs to be investigated down to the ground. That's an aspect of his familial history." Assemblyman Dov Hiking became enraged. "This lawyer is simply out of his frickin' mind. He's a sick, self-hating Jew who's making a mockery of this case. It's insulting and degrading to our entire community. He's a perfect match for Levi Aaron." However, Brooklyn Rabbi Bernard Freilich, who has a contentious history of his own, would state, "There are thousands of married people within the community who are related, and there's no problem. It's preposterous to say that because there's a possibility of his parents being related, that Aaron would be crazy. I'll leave it up to you, my viewer, to decide whether you feel it plays a role." August 2012. Over a year had passed since Levi abducted and took the life of 8-year-old Leiby Kletzky. Word was going around that Levi was going to plead guilty for his role in the crime. In the deal, he would receive a 40 to 60-year sentence for the crime, and of course avoid a lengthy trial, where he would have to come face to face with Leiby's parents, who themselves were dreading the idea of it all. During Aaron's court appearances, he remained quiet and never publicly apologized, only relaying messages to his attorneys, who spoke of Leiby's remorse. On August 9th of 2012, Levi would go on to plead guilty. In court, he appeared unhealthy and overweight, his face blank, and the shock of what he did once more overtaking him as he was sentenced to 40 years in prison, with possibility of being paroled in 2052. By then, Aaron would be close to 80 years old. Levi Aaron will probably never walk the streets of New York City again. June 2nd, 2016. Back at the Aaron home on 466 East 2nd Street. The police have arrived. Levi Aaron's brother Sivi Aaron is found dead. He was wrapped in a blanket and inside a closet of his basement apartment within the home. Liquor bottles were found, and early reports stated that he might have abused pills. The death was very mysterious and remained undetermined. Conspiracies as to whether Levi Aaron was killed as retribution started swirling around New York City, to which Levi Aaron hoped was not the case. Till this day, I cannot find exactly how that death was ruled. It's just another notch in the sad history of the Aaron family of East 2nd Street in Kensington, Brooklyn. In August of 2018, Levi Aaron hit the papers again. He was accused of attacking a female corrections officer at the Sullivan Correctional Facility in Fallsburg, New York. The officer had asked Levi to clean his cell. Levi became enraged and grabbed the officer, pulling her into his cell. He was taken out of general population and was disciplined and might face a longer prison sentence due to this. Something tells me this isn't the last time we'll hear of Levi Aaron. Now let's head over to the Kensington and the Borough Park section of Brooklyn, New York City. Okay, people, we are in the Kensington area of Brooklyn. It's like a little sliver of a neighborhood between Borough Park and Flatbush. Look at that old sign, Public Market. Wow, I love that stuff. You see a lot of that in these neighborhoods, remnants of the past. So, we're in Kensington today because obviously if you listen to the beginning of this story, this was Levi Aaron's neighborhood where he lived. And on July 11th, 2011, this is where he took 8-year-old Levi Kletzky. And by the 13th, his home was raided, where they found what we discussed in this story. And we're going to Empire State Supply right now, and then we're going to go to the home where Aaron was living. And I'm doing this because I want to show you how small his existence was, how close this place of employment was to his home, because it's very close, and I think you'll be a little surprised. So it kind of just shows you how small somebody's life can be as far as movement, as far as, you know, what they do on the daily. And a lot of us have to take commutes to work. Know thyself. That's great. And that's the F train coming up there. You take that to Coney Island. Take that into Queens, like Jamaica, areas like that. So as I was saying, you know, a lot of us have to commute to go to work. We get in our car. We do all types of things. But not in this case. I'm just gonna step away and let this train pass. Not in Levi's case. It's simply a stroll around the block. And back home. As his days droned on and he wasted away. So this neighborhood is a little orthodox. It's mixed though too. It's not, I don't think it's as much as like when we get to Borough Park, which we'll go after. And you'll see a little more of the Hasidic and the Orthodox stuff. So I'm not gonna film the place because it's kind of busy, but you see this right here and all this. This whole area is Empire State Supply. This whole thing right here. Make sure I don't get hit by this truck. So
this whole place right here, this big little, like, it's a pretty big operation. They got a lot of trucks, a lot of stuff coming in and out of here. It must be supplying a lot of, you know, companies with materials. See that truck there? And what a view, huh? What a view. Walking out of work or looking out the window, that's what you see. A wall. You see a wall and you hear a train all day. I mean, what an existence, huh? Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time over there. There's a lot of workers, a lot of shit going on. So we'll give one more look back here. You can kind of see. And that was the former employment location of Levi Aaron, Brooklyn Butcher, Kensington Killer, whatever you want to call him. And I'm gonna go over to East 2nd Street right now because that is the home over there. And like I said, you're gonna see how close it was to place of employment. Just a fun fact, it's election day here in New York City. Sorry, I can't decipher that. Yeah, it's election day. We got Curtis Lewa versus Eric Adams. Curtis Lewa, the founder of the Guardian Angels. Eric Adams, he's a former police officer. I don't know too much about Adams, honestly. I know a lot about Lewa growing up in New York City. He's quite the colorful character, to say the least. But I'm not going to comment on what I think about these guys, but that's a fun fact. Election day. It's the mayoral election. And of course, you know, other types of local stuff or whatever. I'm kind of freaking tuned out, to be honest with you. But I had a day off for election day, so take the walk here. Because I've been slacking a little bit. I have other things coming out, of course, but this one's taking me a while. Alrighty. Avenue C. We're gonna make a right over here. And we're gonna get over to East 2nd Street. Let's get a look around. And then after this, as I mentioned, we'll go over to Borough Park, where you're gonna see a lot more of a Hasidic presence, Orthodox Jewish presence. Here it's, you know, it's kind of mixed. It's not as, I guess it's not as one-sided, I would say.
What is funny too is when you come to New York and like.
All right, heading towards East 2nd Street. Now I don't want to spend too much time there. I'm be honest, I'm a little creeped. So, let's look at the pumpkins. A few days after Halloween, we still got some pumpkin action. We like that. Alrighty. I'm gonna get over to 466 East 2nd Street. Take a look at that place. There's a school over here too. I apologize, I don't know what school this is, but you know, freaking weirdo living across the street from the school. Not the best spot. And then after this happened, there was like people that were saying that he tried to get some kids in the car. I don't know if that was ever corroborated, but you know, they were saying that at the time that had happened. All right, so we're still by the school just for reference. So we didn't go anywhere. I just turned my camera off for a minute. It was a little busy on that block there. This is Public School 179 here in Kensington, referred to as the Kensington School. As you can see on that sign, Election Day. So it's a little busy, so I kind of, but just for reference, we didn't go far. We're still where we were. So you can kind of see, you know, what was going on. But yeah, I think this is going to be a little tough. There's a lot going on here. And obviously this isn't a subject people actually, you know, want to talk about, you know. It's not something that they want people coming over here and blabbing their mouths about. I don't blame them, because it's creepy. So what I'm gonna do, I don't know, I gotta figure this out, because you guys gotta get a look. So, all right, so I walk past it, we'll go back again. You know, I'm not like scared of anybody or anything like that, but it's like, I don't want to be invasive, you know, like, I don't want to get into any shit with anybody over here. You know, like I said, it's a close-knit place. You know, I'm not trying to like come over here and, you know, so I'm not worried about it. I just don't need a confrontation, you know. I don't need the Sham Rim Patrol coming over here and fucking pressing on me, you know, because then, you know, I want to end up on World Star, you know. So, you know, they got some guys like surveying up the block, so as far as I'm concerned, I'm working with those guys. Those guys, they're like down there doing some surveying, so I'm with them, you know. And we're trying to get some measurements over here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go behind this van over here, and we're kind of just gonna get a little look-see, and then we'll get the hell out of here, because I don't know. I don't want to be a weirdo anymore. That's gonna be, you know. So let's take a look. 466 East 2nd Street. Right up on that top floor was Levy's apartment, where they found the child in the morning hours of July 13th, 2011. Kind of eerie, dude. Kind of eerie. And we're gonna get out of here, because you know, any minute now I could have somebody coming up on me. When you look at a place in a community like this, you really look at a place. And let me tell you something, guys. And you know, I am of Jewish descent on my mother's side, so I'm not like trying to talk smack, but let me tell you something, like, these dudes here, Borough Park, these guys don't fuck around. Like, if you think you're gonna come over here like to their area and try to start some shit or try to start a beef, dude, bad idea. Bad idea. So respect that. If you ever come over here, respect it, man. Respect the neighborhood. You know, don't mess with anyone. I'm here as a, you know, supposed journalist, wannabe journalist, whatever you want to call me. But they'll come out. Be a sea of black coming at you. By black, I mean the clothes. The clothes that they adorn themselves with. So sorry I couldn't spend too much time there, but I think you saw it. Let me get out of the surveyor's way. My buddies that I'm here working with today, you know. I think you saw it. Got a good idea. Got a little feel of this area. There you hear the train again, all day. So, and as I mentioned in the story, that house would have also been the home where in 2017, July 13th, I'm sorry, not July 13th, on June 3rd, 2017, where Levi Aron, his brother, was found wrapped in a blanket, stuffed in a closet, dead. What's that all about? Well, I don't know. As far as I know, I couldn't find anything to see if that was ever solved. But it's just an overall eerie place. I wouldn't even want to live next door. So let's get back on Cortellu right over here, Cortellu Road. Sorry, I'm shaky. I'm gonna update my equipment soon. You won't get all the shakiness. My buddy Manny Grossman was coming at me hard. Manny, if you're watching this, you know, I gotta step up my game, which I will. For anybody into graph, RN, this guy's been at it for, I mean, man, over 20 years, 30 years, probably since I was a kid. RN, just a little graffiti people out there. Yeah, so let me get out of here. I hope you guys enjoyed this so far. Trying to do my best, you know, while trying to be respectful, especially in an area like this. Don't mess around. All right. I'll talk to you guys in a bit. Next time you see me, we'll be in, well, you're not seeing me, but next time you hear me, we'll be in Borough Park. All right, so we're on 14th Avenue in Borough Park, 45th Street, 14th Avenue. All right, so let's talk about this location right here. So by the afternoon to the night of July 11th, this neighborhood is in a panic because the boy is missing. And after Yankee German gets footage from the children's place, he follows the lead to this store here, Variety Corner, where he gets more footage and he sees the child walking. He's knocking on doors. He's trying to figure this thing out. The community's coming together to figure this out, and he gets footage from right here, 4421 14th Ave. So at this time, Levy's probably in Muncie with the child. So after that, we're gonna cross over, because after he obtains the footage from Variety, he gets over here, and as I said before, you're gonna see more Hasidic population here. He heads over this way. I just got the stink eye. That's gonna be a common theme. So he hits over here, 14th and 44, and we're gonna make this right because we're gonna head over to 15th Avenue right now. Borough Park. Let's make this right. Stroll down this area here. And what else? I don't want to talk when I'm passing the people. So we're heading over to 15th Avenue. And I'll try not to film anyone. Turn my camera away for the time being. But, you know, it's New York City, you're allowed to film, you know, you're allowed to do whatever you want, so. But as I mentioned when I was over in Kensington, you know, we don't need any problems. So, we got one of the locations where footage was obtained. And right now we're heading to 4402 15th Ave. Former location of the Shamrim locksmith. I don't believe it's there now, but we'll go to that location regardless. Little construction here. All right, still coming down to 15th, so now we're on 15th and 44th. One long block. I gotta tell you, it smells good too, like there's some baked goods being cooked over here or something. Oh, there you go, there's the culprit. So right here, got the stink eye again. I'm gonna cross the street. feel like I'm in a foreign lost land and no one's ever seen a camera before. So right across the street there was the former location of the locksmith, where another camera was obtained, more footage. And this is where they got the positive confirmation that it was the child. And it looks like there might have been a fire up there recently. Unfortunately, I hope nobody was hurt in that incident. So 15th Avenue and 44th. So now let's head over to 16th. Get another location where there was footage taken. Okay, so we're coming up on 16th now with this old buildings here. You know, in a perfect world, I would have just kept rolling, you know, the whole time if I had some like thing attached to me, I don't know. But so there's the school there. That's where they got another camera, and it's around this time that they find out that on 18th Avenue, you got the place called TriStar Fleet, which is no longer in business, but at the time it was. They were there, and they had some good cameras there. So we're gonna go check that out. We're gonna keep walking. We're gonna head to 18th Avenue. All right. Okay, so we're heading over to 18th Avenue. And man, what an interesting neighborhood. I love it. It's like time has stood still here. Look at these buildings. Look at all this. It's so wild. You know, and I always say, like, people, you know, if I had a time machine or something, you know, people want to go to, like, Rome, or they want to go, you know, somewhere like that, or any time in history. I would say that if I had my choice, I would probably just, if I could walk around New York in like the 40s or 50s, 1950s or 40s, that would kind of be my thing, you know, just to see, you know, how it was, you know, how the neighborhoods were, you know, when the city wasn't like so dense and so overly populated like it is now. It was still kind of like, it was still urban, but it was still kind of like small town at the same time, if you kind of know what I mean. Yeah, I would just love to go back and just walk through Brooklyn and Queens and all those areas in the mid 20th century and just experience that. But, you know, Elon Musk hasn't invented the time machine yet, so we'll have to wait. I'll have to wait, you know. All right, so we're coming up on the former location of TriStar Fleet, 4500 18th Avenue. And you're gonna see it on the right. You're gonna see there's like a bunch of fences over here coming up. Okay, so right now it says quality leasing. Quality leasing. That was the former location of TriStar. Right there. TriStar. 18th and 45th. All right, we're gonna walk across the street. See there's some kind of academy there, some Jewish school. All right, and we're gonna talk. We're gonna hang up out in this corner. We're gonna have a little conversation for a minute. Then we'll get out of here. This has been one of my tensest kind of things. The only thing was like when I was in Brighton Beach and I was over there with the Reznikov shooting. You know, you have like a lot of immigrant Russian population. That was a little freaky too. So, TriStar Fleet, that was the location right there behind. Oh, sorry. Oh, look at that, guys. Muncie Trails. Muncie was the place that Levi took Leiby Kletzky. So this thing goes to Muncie, New York. Wow. Look at that. That is perfect. Kind of like when I was in Williamsburg doing the Sonny Black story, and then the girl comes by with the dog named Sonny, you know? If you guys haven't seen that video, that was crazy. So right there through those trees, right there, that's the dentist office. That is the office where that fateful meeting took place between Levi and Leiby, where they finally got the footage and they seen Leiby's car and the child get in. Right there at that dentist office there. Another eerie spot right next to the Fleet where they had some great cameras. Right there, man. That's where that meeting took place. And he traveled quite a ways, man. He really got lost, and it's just such a sad story. And it's so eerie when you really think about it. So this is where that meeting took place, and this is it, man. I don't know what else to say. I hope you guys liked this video. I tried, like I said, it's a little tense, man. You kind of feel like you're in another country a little bit, which is interesting. It makes New York City interesting, right? Because you have all these weird, not weird, these different communities, and how things change so quick. I can go in another direction and the neighborhood will be completely different, but we'll keep walking this way, man. And in 2011, July, this neighborhood was in a panic. You go by. And just imagine, we spoke about when he came home the next day on July 12th from work or wherever he was coming from in the afternoon, and he just seen this whole area that was here with flyers all over the place with the child's face, and he just freaked out, man. Just like this flyer here, they would have been all over the place. Seriously haunting. B8 bus. All right, well, I hope everybody enjoyed this video, my little trip. I'm sorry it was so edited and stop and go, but I just didn't want to come off too invasive, and even if I tried not to, I still was, because I got the stink eye plenty of times. So let's walk to this corner, and then I'll make a turn here, and then we'll end the video, and that'll be it. So you guys got a little walk through Kensington and Borough Park, and you got to feel the area, which is why I'm doing this. And that's gonna end this video now. The story of Levi Aaron and the abduction and ultimately the murder of 8-year-old Levi Kletzky. Let's sign off, guys. Love you all.